Yo, what's good? What's going on? Welcome into the show. You're watching the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr., and no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for making today's show a part of your day. Coming up, a mailbag. We're going to open up the floor and take questions from our subscribers and our real ones. I always like doing this because what we do wouldn't be possible without the viewers and the supporters of this program, and I always want you to have a voice on this show. Before we take your questions, I know you're going to bring some heat because all of you know ball. Hit that subscribe button. When there's Niners news out there, when they make a move, when there's some buzz, we always talk about it here on the show. In addition to giving you great draft content, great free agency content, live shows, watch parties, in-season, off-season, we do it all. Rob with the $5 super chat. Kyle Shanahan has to go running back by committee this year. Christian McCaffrey is 29 years old, and that's old in RB years. So Christian McCaffrey is going to be 29 years old next June. And I'm very concerned about the Achilles tendonitis coming off the workload that he had in 2023 when he led the NFL in touches, led the NFL in rushing yards, led the NFL in all-purpose yards with more than 2,000, and was tied for first with touchdowns with 21. Since the trade from the Panthers to the Niners, Kyle Shanahan has used him a lot, including that run to the Super Bowl, and clearly the Achilles tendonitis was the after effect of that. Then the Niners signed him to a contract extension, and he barely played this year. Didn't even score a touchdown. After 21 touchdowns a year ago, started to feel like himself coming off the bilateral Achilles tendonitis, and then he injured his knee on the snow-covered surface against the Buffalo Bills. At that age, with his injury history, I agree. Kyle Shanahan should go running back by committee and at least try to manage the carries for McCaffrey. Of course, he didn't do that once McCaffrey came back. Barely any other running back got touches, and what happened? CMC got hurt. But I would also consider doing this offseason. I know some people will joke about how Shanahan's probably going to draft a running back. He drafted Trey Sermon, Ty Davis-Price in the third round. They're not on the team any longer. He took Isaac Guerendo and traded up for him in the fourth round. He has injury issues. Jordan Mason is a restricted free agent. I think the Niners have to draft a running back. This is also an extremely deep running back class. And I think that's a position, a sneaky position of need, because you just don't know if Christian McCaffrey is ever going to be the same. Do I know that he's going to work his ass off to try to get back? For sure. But is he going to be able to hold up at that age with the mileage on the tires, given the injury history? Yeah, it's a concern moving forward for sure. Jayan, should we get rid of Deebo Samuel? So I know that a lot of people aren't going to like this, but this is the reality of it. And I love how last offseason, when I was talking about the Niners trading Deebo, people were saying, clickbait, you hate Deebo. Why do you have something out for Deebo? Niners aren't going to move him. Well, it's funny because the Niners were trying to move him. At the very least, they looked into it, and the Niners told Deebo Samuel and his agent that he was involved in trade discussions. I always think it's better to move on from a player too early as compared to too late. And in the case of Deebo, I think the Niners missed their opportunity to trade him away for good value. A few years ago, coming off the 2021 All-Pro season, it was rumored that teams were offering a first-round pick for him. Last offseason, if you were to have traded Deebo Samuel, I think you could have gotten a second or third-round pick. Now, though, he had the worst year of his career. Ever since he signed that contract extension, he's been a disappointment. His numbers have gone down. And last year, wasn't breaking tackles at his normal rate. Wasn't creating separation. Didn't have explosive plays. Career low in yards per carry. He still has straight line speed, but he wasn't making guys miss. And so we could talk about the Niners moving off of Deebo, but what is the value? A colleague asked me today, Chase, what do you think the Niners could get for Deebo? I said, fourth or fifth round pick? Maybe? Team ain't giving you a third, especially considering the price. But he is going into the final year of his contract, and so I think for that reason, Niners hoping for a bounce back, trying to milk out the remaining juice out of this core. they're going to bring him back in 2025. Lamonte, $5 super chat. We will still never win the big game with Jimmy Garoppolo 2.0 in banana hands. Kyle Shanahan will draft the kicker and a running back. Why is Moody still on the team? Trade Kyle Shanahan ASAP, please. I know some people are down on Kyle Shanahan, but would you believe it if I told you that despite the Niners finishing the year 6-11, they were still number 3 in yards per play, number 9 on third downs, and 4th in yards per game? Before Brock Purdy got injured, they were also hovering around top 10 in points per game. But yeah, they were bad on fourth downs. They were bad in the red area. I thought that Kyle Shanahan had a bad year as far as coaching, game planning, play calling, game management, having his team ready to go, having the season turn into pretty much a disappointment toward the end when you're getting blown out, dump trucked, and you can't stop anybody. But Kyle Shanahan's still one of the elite coaches in this league. And Brock Purdy, I'd give him a B- for how he performed in 2024, but think about the lack of stability. And it's really hard to produce at the quarterback spot when all of your weapons are in and out of the lineup. And there's so much instability around you. And you have bad offensive line play. And your coach isn't helping you out. And the run game isn't there. And the defense is awful. And look, the Niners in Super Bowl 58, they were a couple of plays away from winning the Super Bowl against Kansas City. But you think about what happened in that game. Christian McCaffrey fumbled on the opening drive. Niners were going to get points there. Dre Greenlaw popped his Achilles. Niners defense was dominating prior to that, shutting out Kansas City. There was the botched punt. There was a missed extra point. They didn't block Chris Jones. They didn't get the whistle in their favor. Yet they still almost won. And so I do believe that with Purdy and Shanahan, they can win. But yeah, they're going to need to stay healthy. And they're going to need to continue to add talent. Leon Sandcastle, elite name. Tight end at number 11 is a Raiders move. Don't be the Raiders. Well, it's funny that you say that because, yeah, the Raiders drafted Brock Bowers when they had Michael Mayer. But guess what? Brock Bowers was a first-team All-Pro as a rookie at tight end. Freak of a player. Of course, the Raiders need a quarterback, but Brock Bowers was still a first-team All-Pro despite not having good quarterback play. And so sometimes you need to draft the best player available because you want special players on your team. I know that offensive line, defensive line are needs, but what if they move on from George Kittle after 2025? Tight end becomes a need. So why not usher in Tyler Warren? I don't know if it's something that I'd do, but I'd be tempted. What I would do, I'd build up the trenches offensive line, defensive line, because I think the Niners desperately need to get better there. Let me know down in the comment section, which position do you want to see the Niners target in the first round of the draft? Leon Sandcastle says no to the tight end spot. Our sponsor for today's show, Prize Picks. There is one football game left. Don't miss out on the action with Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app and the only DFS app that you should be using. More than 10 million active members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings, and right now you can win up to 1,000 times your money. And when you play $5, you get $50 instantly. You don't even need to win to receive that $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Ladies and gentlemen, it's daily fantasy sports made easy. You pick 2 or more players. You choose more or less on the projected stats, and you can win some big-time money. You can also withdraw your winnings, all within the Prize Picks app, and they offer MasterCard too. The big game free pick, I love the specials that Prize Picks has to offer. For instance, in the big game, all Patrick Mahomes has to do is throw for more than a half passing yard. Yeah, he's going to be able to do that. Our square for the Super Bowl, Mahomes more than a half passing yard, and Saquon Barkley just has to find the end zone, rushing or receiving. Pick more, pick less, run your game with Prize Picks, prizepicks.com/CLNS. Get $50 when you play 5. We'll put that link down below in the comment section, and it's attached to the pinned comment. Chewalore, what's up, brother? How should we fix the issues with our offensive line and defensive line and special teams depth? Good question here. So I think that you can get an elite offensive tackle, defensive tackle, or edge rusher at number 11. So let's say that you pick one of those positions at number 11. In the mid to late rounds, you can find some excellent interior offensive linemen. It is pretty crazy to me, given the importance that the offensive line has on a football roster, that teams don't draft centers early because they'd rather go with other positions that don't have as much depth in the draft, yet offensive line is so important. And so these really good interior offensive linemen, centers, guards, they fall to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round. And so I don't think the Niners need to go, for those reasons, center or guard in the first round. Let's say they go offensive tackle first round. I'd probably go defensive tackle or edge in the second round. If they go defensive tackle edge in the first round, then you address offensive line after that. There are also some pretty good guards and tackles you can find in the 3rd round. And so there's some versatility this year, given what this draft class looks like, to address defensive line and offensive line. But the most premier players at those positions are usually snatched up pretty early at offensive tackle, edge rusher, sometimes depth as well. But there are some good defensive tackles in this class. And so left guard, center, right tackle, need to address it. Edge rusher, defensive tackle, need to address it. You can also do this in free agency. So I would draft a left guard, draft a right tackle, sign Drew Dahlman, the Falcons center, in free agency, find a defensive tackle and edge in the draft, and then you can bulk up those positions in free agency too, depending on what you do in the draft. Chris P. Bacon, nice. Would you consider trading back to the early mid-20s to get more picks this year and a first next year? I did talk about this a couple of weeks ago on X. Some people liked it, some people didn't. I had floated the idea of trading out of 11. You go into the mid to late teens, and you draft an offensive lineman there, and then you take a player like Jack Sawyer or JT Tuimalahu. I think that's how you say his name. Not sure. His other counterpart at the defensive end spot in the second round or at the end of the first round. Like, you have some possibilities there if you trade out of 11 to maybe get a late first rounder or an early second. And then let's say you have a mid first rounder, either a late first rounder or an early second. You hold on to your other early second. That's 3 picks inside the top 45. I would really like that. And I think that's a smart team building strategy right there. So yeah, I'd think about it depending on what the offer is. 21 NC Dorado. Sign DJ Jones. Will Fries at offensive guard. Trade 11th overall to Cleveland for Myles Garrett. Second round pick trade up for Donovan Jackson to play right tackle. My man, you may have just crossed off all of the boxes of what the Niners need to do this offseason, which would include a dream scenario. I have talked about this. I would sign DJ Jones, number 2 defensive tackle in run stop win rate among all players at that position. He got a 3-year, $30 million contract from the Broncos after he left the Niners. I don't think he's getting that. I think that you can get him at a more affordable price, and he's a player who can stop the run and knows the scheme, who Robert Saleh is familiar with. You bring in an offensive guard via trade or free agency, I could see that. I don't think the Browns are trading 11 for Myles Garrett. Honestly, it might take 2 ones for Myles Garrett. But we can dream about a Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa edge rusher combination. You trade that second as well. I still don't think it happens. Trade up for Donovan Jackson to play right tackle. Some good tackles in this draft class. Fossey, what's the Niners' record next year with the last place schedule? Let's go 11 wins. Having not knowing what they're going to do this offseason, let's go 11-6. Because I think there are a lot of winnable games, and we'll see what they do in free agency and in the draft. And if they crush it, yeah, they are not far away from getting back to playoff and championship contention. Give me a follow on social media, by the way, at Chase_Senior. I'm always posting about the Niners. 15,000 followers on X, nearly 36K on IG. Say what's up, and thanks for supporting the content.